Can I tell you a story? It's about this woman named Lisa, right? Lisa is in her mid 40s, maybe 40, 45 years old, and she spent the last 20 years or so like hyper focused on being a wife, a mother, a dedicated employee. And she's come to this stage in her life where the children are grown up, she and her husband are growing apart, and what she's doing at work has become diminished. Her role has become diminished. They're not asking her for her opinion much anymore. She's just feeling invisible, right? So Lisa starts to realize that she doesn't know who she is outside of her family and the role that she's played at work. So she kind of goes into a little bit of a spin, and she starts to come to other realizations, like some of the hobbies and the passions that she used to have. She sort of set them aside, to chase her dreams at work, to raise her family, to be a good wife. All of the things that society tells us as women we should want to do, right? So her sense of purpose has become a little bit blurry. She doesn't know how she got here, and worst of all, she doesn't know how to get out of this situation. So she feels a little bit like she's alone in this boat with no oars, like she's just in the ocean by herself, just floating, because she can't see her way to the shore. So what I've just described to you is the most common feeling that I would say 50% of women over the age of 40 are having right at this very moment. So the good news is that you are not alone. And the bad news is that you're not alone. So we as women in midlife, we've put so much of ourselves into helping other people that we've come to this stage where we start to struggle as we try to reconnect with our own identity and figure out what comes next for us. So today in this video, I'm going to talk about something that's really deeply personal to me, because I was Lisa. And I'm sure that if you're watching this video, you feel like you can identify with Lisa as well. So today I'm going to talk about something that's really deeply personal for me. And it's all about defining the next chapter of your life through identity exploration. So a lot of people think that, when you talk about the term midlife, you automatically say crisis at the end of it. And I get it, because at this stage of life, it does feel like you're in a little bit of a whirlwind. Life is not what you thought it was going to be. You're all over the place and you just feel like you're out of control. So it does feel like you are fighting fires, that you are drowning, that you are in a crisis. So I totally and utterly get that. This time can feel really, really uncertain for a lot of people. That's how a lot of women that I've talked to have used that word. I'm uncertain about the future. I don't see how I'm supposed to get past this. I'm stuck. I'm stalled. Those types of words. So this is really a time where I feel like if you have the right guidance, if you have the right tools, if you have the right resources, and really the right people around you, you can hit the reset button. And this is an opportunity for you to start to redefine who you are and what you really want your life to be. So this journey that we're on right now in midlife isn't really about finding some sort of final answer to this question, like, who am I? But it's about embracing the idea that your identity is somewhat fluid, right? It's constantly evolving. You're in this state of evolution. And so today we're going to explore how to ask the right questions, embrace change, which some of us really have a tough time doing. Holla. And we're going to talk about how to take control of this next chapter. So before we dive into the how of it, right, let's talk a little bit about identity exploration and what it actually means. So to me, and this is just my definition, but identity exploration is the process or like a re-examination and redefining of who you are. Particularly as it relates to some of those major life transitions. Think about what Lisa was going through. You know, her kids are moving out of the house, her relationship with her husband is changing. She's not as needed on the job as she once was, or she feels like she's not as needed on the job as she once was. So there's a lot of things that's happening in her life that's making her feel like everything is in flux. So at this stage, you might be asking yourself a lot of questions like, you know, what's my role now? You know, you may even be questioning some of the things that you have even believed for all of these years. And more than anything, you're probably questioning, like, what is the purpose of my life right now? What am I supposed to be doing? I've fulfilled my responsibility as a mom. If you are a mom, everybody's not. But maybe at this stage, you fulfilled what you thought you were supposed to fulfill at this stage. And so now you're like questioning, like, what do I do with myself at this point? So for those people who are moms, you know, maybe your children have left home. That was my experience. And I'm going to tell you straight up, that was hard. I had no idea it would be that hard to watch my child walk out the door and know that this was the last day that she would be living under my roof. You know, I think about it even now, and it sort of brings tears to my eyes because it was such a feeling of finality to me that I don't think I was prepared to deal with. This was not something that my mother talked to me about. I'm sure it's not something that her mother talked to her about. It was just normal. At this age, you know, society tells us that you're just supposed to get out of your house. You're supposed to get out of your mom's house. You're supposed to go at the age of 18 or however old that magic number is. Get out, go get your own life and do your own thing. And as a mom, you know, I'm not ashamed to say that I wasn't ready for that to happen. And I didn't know that I wasn't ready for that to happen. And so it was tough. It was tough for me. And I think because I was projecting so much onto my daughter, that it was hard for her as well. And I feel like I was projecting so much that it made her feel guilty about actually leaving and becoming the adult that her father and I taught her to be. But that wasn't my intent. But again, I didn't know how to handle all of that because nobody ever talked to me about that. And so these are the types of things that we're going to be talking about on this channel. The things that at this age, at this stage, that we just don't know. And sometimes we're just afraid or embarrassed or whatever the case may be to even talk about it. So in addition to, you know, your child leaving home, maybe you're one of those women that you've come to a crossroads in your career and you're thinking, you know, it's time to make a change. It really is. You know, your relationships are changing, not just with your significant other, but sometimes at this stage, our relationships with our girlfriends change. You know, I know that happened for me where I lost some girlfriends who I was very close to, and it felt very much like a loss. And it felt like I needed to grieve that. And again, that was something that I wasn't really equipped to handle because I'd never heard of this. I'd never encountered it. I had never talked to anybody about it. So it was one of those things that really took me off guard. So there were a lot of things that were going on when I was in my mid to late 40s that felt really tumultuous to me. And it just got me out of who I was, who I felt that I should be at that time. And it made me question a lot of things about myself, like who am I and what do I want? at this stage of life? And neither one of those questions for me was easy to answer, which was kind of surprising. So this exploration of finding your identity isn't really about dismissing all the things that have happened to you in the past, because honestly, I think that we need those things. We need those things in order to grow. You wouldn't be who you are today without some of the things that have happened to you in the past. Even those things that are not pretty, those things that are hurtful, they were necessary. I know sometimes it feels like super icky and just like crap, but it was necessary. It was needed to get you to who you are right now. So instead of dismissing all of the things that have happened to you in the past, I think that it's about, taking those things and integrating them into your new narrative, coming up with your new story. Like, who do you want to be in the future? You know who she was in the past, but who do you want to be right now, right? And so this is what we're going to be talking about today. Who you are right now, and then who you want to be tomorrow. So when it comes to identity exploration, I think it starts with asking yourself some questions, right? The questions we've already talked about, like, who am I now? Who do I want to become? Those are the two questions that are at the heart of this process, because these are the questions that are going to give you like this momentum to keep going. You know where you were, and you're going to use that as a springboard to propel you into who you want to be. So it's super important for us to really explore and ask ourselves these questions. But at the same time, I want you to really understand what these questions really mean. So let's start with the first one. Who am I right now at this very moment? So this question isn't about, it's really about taking stock of your identity right now, because that's what you know. That's what you're dealing with. We're dealing with the present. We're not dealing with who we think we are, who we want to be. This is not the aspirational stage right now. So you're going to reflect on all the roles that you're playing in life right now. Are you a mother? Are you a professional? Are you a significant other? And then you're going to think about all the things that are important to you, right? All of the things that you value, all of the passions that you have. I know that you probably have put them aside, or you think that, it's not for you anymore. But if you look deep enough, you'll still see it. You know that there are things that you want to do. And I kind of label those as, passions. What are you feeling like you want to do that you haven't had an opportunity to do? And what are the things that right now bring you joy and fulfillment? Sometimes it's really hard to think about those questions because we're not used to putting all the focus on ourselves. We're not used to looking inward and saying, hey, this is what I want, because we think, and society has told us, that you should be thinking about yourself. That is so selfish. You should be thinking about being a mom. You should be thinking about being a wife. You should be thinking about being the best worker that you can be. Don't think about yourself. And so we've bought into all of that foolishness. And so when it comes to really being able to ask ourselves, what brings me joy? What brings me fulfillment? It feels super hard to answer that question, because we've been taught in a very subtle way that our feelings don't count. And I'm here to say that's some BS. So you also have to consider, really what no longer serves you. I talked a little bit about some of the relationships that I lost when I started coming into my mid to late 40s. You really want to hang on to some of those friendships, and you say, oh gosh, I had such a good time with this person. This is my friend. This is blah, 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 blah. And sometimes you just have to know when to walk away, because the signs are there. That'll be another topic that I talk about in another video, because midlife friendships are so important and they're so complicated. I think that it deserves to be talked about and give us a space for us to kind of dive into that. So that'll be another video. But right now, we're still talking about your identity and what parts of your identity right now, who are you right now, what parts of your identity feel like they're outdated. They feel like they're holding you back. These are limiting beliefs that you have. So you really have to like dig in there and start to uncover some of this stuff. It may feel a little bit icky right at first, but you really have to dig deep if you really want to find the answer to that question. So this is a self-assessment that sort of helps you see where you are right now, because again, that's what you're dealing with. You're dealing with present day you, not in the past you, even though some of that stuff has created present day you. You're dealing with the you right now. So that's what we're focused on. And this is the first step to really helping you understand where you might go in the future. So that second question is, who do I want to become? So this question is more forward looking. It gives us an opportunity to really dream and to think about our limitless potential, right? Who you are today has a lot of limits. And I think a lot of that is just because we didn't know any better. We don't know how to deal with some of these situations. So we have looked through a lens that has limited us in some ways. But when you start to ask yourself who I want to become and start to think about all of the things that can be and how you can just push all of the limits aside, it's really a freeing feeling. It feels free, at least to me it does. And it's about your vision going forward. It's about your aspiration. Who do you want to be, right? I aspire, and I think that most of the women that aspire or who will be watching this channel will aspire to be that girl, because along the way, we lost her and we're trying to get her back. That's why I say that I am an aspiring that girl. And I think a lot of who we are, who we were, we just have to get her back, and we have to redefine who she's going to be, right? So that's why I like to say I'm aspiring to be that girl. And so as I aspire to be that girl again, I look at the qualities and the roles and the achievements that I want to have in my next chapter. Like, what do I want to do? Who do I want to be? How do I want to feel? How does that girl feel, right, in the future? What do people say about that girl in the future? And I want you to start thinking about those things. These are things that I think about every day. And again, this is where you sort of allow yourself to dream and think of what the most ideal future for yourself actually looks like. What does that look like? What does it feel like? Where are you living? When you get up every day, what does that feel like? Where are you going? Who are you helping? Who are you serving? All of those things are these kind of inputs that's going to help you build that person, that persona that you want to be in the future. So it really does require you to really give it some deep thought. So by asking these questions, you start to really paint a picture of your present as well as your future self. It's a process that really requires a lot of honesty on your part, a lot of introspection, and mainly it requires the willingness of you to let go of the things that no longer align with the future vision that you have for yourself. I like to call it being in alignment with your assignment. And that's where we're trying to go. I think one of the most empowering aspects of this whole idea of identity exploration is embracing this identity, this idea that identity is a fluid thing, that it's constantly moving, that it's in motion, that there's momentum there. I love that idea because you're not defined by who you were in the past, right? She's gone. She's in the past. You now have the power. I hope you hear me on this. You now have the power to evolve and adapt and grow based on your new aspirations and your new life circumstances. So I want you to think about this. Throughout your life, you've already reinvented yourself multiple times, right? Whether you moved to a new city, you started a new career, or you became a parent, you adapted as you became all of these things, right? So being in midlife, being at this stage is just another opportunity for you to adapt. And it's probably one of the most significant opportunities that you have to date. But embracing change, I know, isn't always easy. I mean, I'll say it for myself. It is not always easy. It can be uncomfortable. It can be frightening, just to let go of who you once were because you're comfortable with her, right? So it makes a difference. But there's a certain sort of security in staying with familiar. I know, been there, done that, wrote the book about it. But staying stagnant because you're fearful to move, because you're fearful of change, it can lead to a real sense of dissatisfaction and unfulfillment. That's where the whole notion of midlife crisis comes into play. When you start to hear people say, I don't know what I'm supposed to be doing right now, or I don't know what comes next. I don't know what else there is for my life. This is that kind of feeling of dissatisfaction that we fall into, and it's very subtle. It happens like right under our noses, and if we're not tuned into it, we will miss it. But embracing this next chapter, this new chapter, you really need to give yourself permission to grow. That's it. Like I said, we have been taught as women that there are certain things that we shouldn't do. There are certain things that we shouldn't be looking forward to. So growth and evolution is one of those things. And we have a really hard time allowing ourselves and giving ourselves permission to move forward. But you need to experiment with the new you, this future you. You need to do some experimentation. What does she look like? What is she interested in? What is her state of being right now? So this might mean, maybe it is time for you to move out of that job that you were in. Maybe it's time for you to pursue something new. Maybe it's time for you to let go of a relationship that you've had and in your heart of hearts is no longer serving you. Maybe it's about adopting a brand new mindset, throwing away everything, throwing away the BS that I call belief systems, throwing away your current BS and starting brand new. Everything that you thought you knew, you didn't. So you're throwing it out the window and you're starting with a fresh set of beliefs. Whatever that looks like for you, the key is to stay open and to stay curious about where this exploration is going to lead you to. So exploration is really powerful, I think, but it's really only the beginning. The next step is really to take some action to reshape your new identity based on what you're discovering as you go along the pathway. And I do want you to pay attention to that, because it's not just about kind of putting on the blinders and going through each day with, not even like thinking about what you're doing, getting into this whole, have you ever been in a car and it's just kind of like you're driving along and all of a sudden you make it to your destination and you're like, how the hell did I get here? And it's because you're in this whole, you're in this rote kind of existence. where everything is the same, everything is comfortable. So there's nothing that's really shaking your world. There's nothing that's really rocking your world right now. So we're going to push that away. We're going to push that aside, and we're going to pay attention. We're going to be in discovery mode at this state, because this is not who we want to be anymore. We don't want to be stuck. We don't want to be stalled. So it's time to start paying attention and to start this whole idea of discovery. So how do we discover? Well, you got to set some goals for yourself. And I don't mean like the regular goals, by this time I will do this, or by this time I will do that. No, that's not what I mean. I mean just kind of, a goal could be, again, changing your mindset about something, throwing out the BS and saying, I'm going to start fresh. I'm going to start with a whole new set of ideas. And then I'm going to go on my journey of discovery, as it were, and try to figure out, the things that I believe, are they really worth taking into my future? So this is what I want us to do. This is what I want us to start questioning everything, because we have typically just gone with the flow, because that's what society tells us to do. Just go with it. You're a nurturer, you're a provider, you're a supporter. You're not a questioner. I think that is crazy. And I think that we should ask more questions. And we should start to actively pursue this vision that we've created for our future self. What does that look like? Like I said, how do I get from where I am now to this ideal future that I want? To be that girl. You know what I'm saying? That's what we need to start thinking about. So you start by really identifying some really small, actionable steps that you can take. It doesn't have to be big. Everybody always thinks that in order to do something, next level, it has to be super big. It doesn't. It can be small. If your exploration reveals that you want to become more creative, maybe it's just taking a class. Do you want to become a painter? Do you want to become some sort of artist? There's lots of classes out there that you can take to explore and discover. It's not that big of a deal, but it's information. You're in discovery mode. You're trying to figure out like what feels good to you right now. What looks good on you right now. If you want to transition to a new career, you got to do some research. Talk to people in the field. Stop being so scared of everything. Get out there and explore, discover, figure it out. What's the worst that can happen? I'll tell you the worst that can happen. You're going to stay exactly where you are if you don't start to move and do something different. Just like somebody I know always says, if you want something different, you have to do something different. You can't just sit there and wait for it to come to you. You've got to be more, I don't want to use the word aggressive, because that is a word that people don't necessarily like, but you get the point. You have to do something different, and it's going to require some differences of you. And sometimes it's going to feel uncomfortable. It's going to feel scary. Let it. It's all good. You'll feel what you feel. And to me, that's great, because it's telling me I'm alive. I feel this. I understand this. I'm starting to understand this. I think that's great. It's all information, it's all input that you can use as you move forward. So remember that this does not happen overnight. So don't try to put your, like I said, when you're doing goals, don't try to say, I'm going to be a new me. I'm going to be that girl by this time next year. No, give yourself time to evolve. Don't start to push it. Just let it happen. As you start taking in more information, you'll start to take what's valuable to you, and you'll start pushing out the things that no longer serve you. And surprisingly, it will come more naturally than you think it will. It's really a very gradual process. I want you to feel it. I want you to learn it. I want you to understand it, because that way you'll recognize it, and you won't have this opportunity to kind of slip back into what you once were. If you keep moving forward and you keep putting more information, you keep giving yourself more input about those things that you want, those things that you don't want will become a lot more recognizable going forward. I also say surround yourself with people who are going to support you in this journey. That is so important, for you to have people, whether they be friends, whether they be family, whether they just be a community of people that you have met online. You need somebody who's gonna be able to say, here's what you're doing. I support you in that. How can I help you? That is, to me, one of the most beautiful things that someone can say to you. How can I help you? And genuinely, honestly mean it. I love that. And that's what I want you to start to think about and look forward to. So, defining this next chapter of life through this whole notion of identity exploration is really about more than just answering questions, right? Who am I now? It's about embracing the potential that you have. It's about embracing what's possible for you. And it's about opening up options for yourself in the future, so that you can start to take action on the things that you want to see happen for you. So as you go along on your journey, remember that you have the power. And I want you to remember this, and I want you to really take that in. You have the power to reshape your own identity. Why? Why do you have that power? Because it's yours. It's your identity. It belongs to you. Nobody can take it from you. Nobody can tell you what it is. That's why you have the utmost power to reshape your identity in a way that aligns with your aspirations, that aligns with your assignment. Being in midlife, being a woman in your 40s and your 50s and your 60s, even beyond, it is not the end. I know that sounds trite. I know that sounds like, but it's so true. It's so true. This is really just the beginning for us. This is like starting brand new with a clean slate. How many people get to do that? How lucky are we that we get to do that? It's a new beginning for us. There's so many possibilities for us. You just have to be open to them. You just have to forget that person that you were before and allow the woman that you want to be to start to emerge, to start to evolve, to start to show herself. So I hope that this video was helpful for you to start thinking about this whole idea of identity exploration, because it really is one of the first steps that we have for making our midlife journey a little bit more smoother, a little bit easier, a little bit more understandable. So if you found this talk really helpful, I appreciate it, and I would love for you to like the video and share it with someone who needs to hear this. Until next time, take care of yourself. Know that you didn't come this far just to come this far. This is a journey, and you're doing great. I'll see you in the next video.